Hello teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to get this video up quite quickly. It's probably going to be quite short, but I figured I need to take a break from work for a little bit for my brain and to stop it from melting out of my ears. I do still have a number of report cards to write, but better I get this out now while I still can, otherwise there's no way I'd do it. Chantal put out 3 videos, I believe it was. Oh, 4 videos, because she had the one where she addresses the cats, which we're going to speak on briefly. Addresses the cats again, I should say. She's had, what, 5 or 6 videos, some of them immediately deleted, some of them not, where she's addressed the cats and she's never talking about it again. Spoiler alert, she's talking about it again. She had a grocery haul. She had a burger thing she'd made at home, which, as you might guess, was a mukbang. And then there was one when I got home today, reaction channels are bored liars. And yes, my Hep B antibody test was positive, get it right. So we're gonna be looking at just a brief portion of the cat video, and then we're gonna briefly mention the Hep B video. The first thing that strikes me from any of these, like mukbangs and grocery hauls are all kind of part of her brand as such. I mean, as much as the messes, I suppose. Part of the brand she wants to cultivate. But the more videos she puts out where they're live and they're addressing things, the more you see that, man, she is out of material. She's not leaving the house as much because the heat is insane. And the heat is insane, I'm not arguing that. But she really, not even in a way that before she used to retell stories and she used to focus entirely on, well, used to, she still does, focus entirely on experiences from like high school age, and then she has a portion of her life that she seems to have just forgotten pre-BB, like that beginning adult portion of her life we don't get many stories from. And then we have her YouTube era. But the way she's going back, and not just out of anger, because addressing the cats could be out of anger, could be out of frustration, because you know she's very, very triggered by FFG. But also just the fact that there's no new drama really, and she doesn't have as many means to make it. So she's just focusing on the old stuff that she said she wasn't going to address again, hoping to refan the flames, and I think a little bit as well, not wanting to have the conversation about where she was for a couple of days, because we could still work on the theory that she border hopped somewhere. I don't think she went all the way back to Canada, but Bahrain is what, a 40-minute flight? Somewhere else in the Middle East is a possibility. Maybe it didn't happen. I wasn't there with her, I don't know. But I do know that the tourist visa, if in fact she's on a tourist visa, which is still my suspicion, is up pretty soon. But she could fudge that a little bit and go for the month extension, so we'll see how that goes. So for a number of reasons, she's refanning the flames with the cat video. Part of it is also money as well, which, get your coin, you're on YouTube. You've literally sold off pieces of your entire life the entire time you've been online. And for everything you've sacrificed to achieve that, I would at the very least expect you to make money on it. So I'm not blaming her, but let's be realistic with the timing here. She's put out 4 videos in very quick succession, and the reason very simply is the fact that it's currently the 28th of May. So how YouTube works, you get paid between the 21st and the 25th, but you get paid for the previous month's earnings. So everything she earns in May gets paid out June 21st to 25th, depending on what date she has. I actually wonder what date she gets paid. I guess it would still be on the Canadian schedule, which seemed to be like 22nd-ish. I always get paid a little bit later. I get paid usually like 24th, 25th. And I guess because our payments are covered by Google Ireland and hers must be covered by Google America. But she needs views to get paid, and that's a simple fact. So if it's going to benefit her to change the conversation to something she's comfortable arguing about, and she's got a better chance to earn money, which is why we're now hearing about Hep B and cats again, even though some things are private and we're never talking about again, which we'll talk about in a second, then yeah, she wants to earn a few extra coins before the end of the month and get them paid out in a few weeks' time. Now, I am not going to go through the whole cat video because in terms of her version of the story of the cats, which is something she has sat down and told before, nothing has changed. She is still willfully ignoring the difference between emotionally caring for and physically caring for her pets. She was a neglectful cat owner, but she's really, really fond of the word defamation at the moment, defamatory. It's not defamatory if the truth was on the screen. Yes, FFG may have made some accusations in terms of neglect and things like that based on what the vet said. But again, if you've got evidence, it's not defamation. But even without it, even if this whole BBJ arc hadn't happened the way it did, there has been a conversation about the well-being of the pets for a very long time, and part of that reason was the state in which Chantal lived, Chantal and Pete lived, and the pictures of Timbits before, that's Peter's cats for anyone new, before they passed. The fact that she smoked constantly, and occasionally she'd be like, no BBJ, go that way, but the whole house was filled with weed smoke, and it was dirty, and she didn't clean out the cat litters very frequently because she needed Peter's help, and there were messes on the floor, and sometimes the cats did vomit or go out of the litter box, and they didn't clean it up straight away. So yes, animal control came and the animals were not removed, but that doesn't mean it was a good situation, and we could entirely remove the FFG arc and still come to that conclusion. So the truth was on the screen as far as I'm concerned. But Chantal has changed her mind again. Recently there was a conversation about potentially her going to Canada and picking him up. She put it on a community post and then about 20 minutes later took it down, was like, changed my mind. Presumably she looked at what it would require and was like, shit, that's expensive and I can't do that. And it can be expensive. If you're talking about transferring the cat without you, if you're talking about getting a company to ship the cat, essentially, it can be thousands and thousands and thousands. And I don't think she has it. I think they have some money. I think she gets by on YouTube, particularly because she's not putting money aside for taxes right now. She's having some money forcibly taken on her payment plan, according to her. She's not putting anything aside for this year, so she's going to go full circle and get herself exactly into the same problem she was in before. But it seems like she has enough to do the things she needs to do. They did get a bit spendy with the new phones. She did say that Salah was the reason for that and that he'd had a big sale around Ramadan. But Ramadan, the fasting month, and then the Eids that come after it, they're major celebrations. So yeah, you would expect more sales at that point. But day to day, we don't know what their income is. And to expect her to have, knowing her financial history and her general sense of not being able to manage her money, to expect her to have $5,000-$6,000 on hand to be able to ship a cat doesn't seem very realistic. And to be honest, before say a year and a half ago, I would have been hard pressed to turn up that kind of cash because that wasn't the way I organised myself. But she's changed her mind again and she's decided she's going to get him. She wants him back. Yeah, so the person who is now fostering him, which is not the original person, the family friend that she left him with, has agreed that it's a foster rather than a keep, and Foodie is apparently paying for his upkeep. But this is what she said, and I'll put it in the video so you can see it.
Sam, my other cat, he is about 6 years old. I'm going to be getting him back. I have someone taking care of him. I'm paying for all his needs right now. The next time I go to Canada, I have arranged with an airline to return him with me. And I have found a huge pen with big bedding, so it's very ventilated, very open. It's not a small carrier, and he's going to be sedated. Anyway, it's for me to worry about.
There's some interesting use of tense here, and I'm not sure how deliberate it is. The next time I go to Canada, I have arranged with an airline to return him with me. And then she starts talking about getting a very big pen, not just a tiny carrier, bedding, and crucially, she says sedated, which we'll talk about in a moment. But it's very much speaking to, I'm going to go and the cat's going to come back in the hold with me. Because if it's an enormous pen, it can't go in the cabin. And so it would have to be down in the hold. Now, there are dangers in shipping pets. Pets pass during the journey, and depending on when this is, in the heat of the Kuwaiti summer, I don't even think some airlines would agree to ship with the temperatures. We did look briefly into what it takes to ship a pet, both through services and as accompaniment or cargo with Foodie flying, And there's a lot to arrange either way, but it's a lot cheaper to do it if she's going to Canada than it is to have the cat unaccompanied or through an agency of some kind. So I think when I checked on Qatar Airlines, because I'm assuming that's the one she'd use, the cost was between $400 and $500 to have the cat as a piece of luggage, essentially. But I have arranged implies a done action. It's past tense. The only way you can arrange with an airline to ship a cat is if you've already booked the ticket. They can't arrange that if you don't have a ticket already. So has she booked a ticket back to Canada? Is that what we understand? Or is this a case of dreaming as a form of planning, and what she will do and what she has done and what she might do are all the same thing in her head? As I said, there are certain risks to shipping a cat in that way, having a cat be in the cargo. She says sedated. Now, from all accounts, her cats really dislike being boxed up. That was one of the problems she cited for not going to the vet as frequently, because they're not good travelers. So it's going to be a difficult journey, which is why she's saying sedated. But a number of airlines won't allow sedated animals because it increases the risk of them dying in journey. Now, she says it's for her to worry about, which of course she probably hasn't looked that hard into it right now. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she has booked the trip, because that's what she's saying. Based on this statement, she has booked a trip to Canada and she has arranged with the airline. That is the way the grammar in this statement works. Whether she's wrong because she tends to mix these things up in her head, or whether she's telling on herself, I don't know. But I guess we'll see. In terms of the requirements to bring a pet in, she can get a permit for it, and I don't believe she needs to be a resident to do that. As long as she's got, I mean, she could arrange it before she went, but as long as she's got somebody like Sala who can go and get that permit, they can arrange things. I think she's massively underestimating the kind of paperwork it would take, just as she massively underestimated the kind of paperwork a residency order would take. Because if she had any real idea of what it took, she would speak on it differently. But as she says, that's for her to worry about, and she'll have to figure it out. But it's interesting the way she spoke about it, and it seems to imply she's traveling soon, whether she intended to or not. I mentioned her use of defamatory, and aside from the fact that we all had eyes and we could all see it, as has been mentioned many times on this channel, Chantal herself is a really unreliable narrator. So this, and then the oncoming rage of reaction channels are bored liars, sometimes it's not that we're lying, it's that we're speculating. And the reason that we're forced to speculate is because Foodie doesn't tell the truth. And so we then have to take what she says, we have to apply basic logic and our own experience to it, and we have to come to a conclusion, because what she says can't be trusted. And sometimes we get that wrong. We're essentially making educated guesses, and the guesswork isn't perfect. But this whole thing, the STD results, where she's asking, do you need to know what antibody means? I'm like, you've got a lot of attitude for somebody who admitted they had an STD. I believe initially mistakenly thought she was positive for Hep B and then realized what antibodies were herself and what they meant, and now is shocked that we think she's got an STD. I'm sorry, love, past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior. What do you want us to say? So she's saying she's got the antibodies, she put that up on screen, she showed it on her phone. I believe that she's got the antibodies. I don't think she's got it. I do think that she mistook herself as having it, and that's what went online, and that's what caused the initial confusion. But this whole where are my pearls, let me clutch them of it all just seems a tad overdone. Like, you mistook it yourself. What are you doing blaming us for thinking the same? And that's something she forgets all the time. As much as she would like to believe we do, we don't pull our information out of thin air. We occasionally follow breadcrumbs and get it wrong, but the breadcrumbs are laid by her. The information is given by her, frequently unintentionally, but given nonetheless. And if she existed in a vacuum of the empty background and whatever she said on that particular day, we'd have less to go on. But she tells on herself and she shows on herself, and then she wonders how we know. And her own inconsistencies don't help with this. Like, she disappeared for what, 2-3 days there? Very, very quiet on the Middle Eastern front over here. And then came back online, was very sure to like twitch the curtains so you could see where she was, talked about the immigration thing and how people are ridiculous and how it's private. STD results, not private enough to keep offline. Marriage certificate, oh, well guys, there are limits. Don't you ever say that to us again, you just showed us your Hep B results. And the thing with her coming on and addressing it and talking about it and being like, oh yeah, no, it's really private, and oh no, and people are ridiculous, and look at this, and yeah, oh yeah, no, look, I have the bag and I have the things and this is the stuff. The lady doth protest too much. Maybe she didn't hop a border to do this, maybe she didn't, but her reaction doesn't fill me with confidence there. Do you see? Because she seemed to be working really hard to both establish herself in time and place in a way that is unusual for her and wasn't necessary unless she was trying to previously hide her time and place, and be very clear on the fact that some things are just too much and private, while 24 hours later sharing an STD result. Again, people draw conclusions based on the info they have and the info they can get and their experience. So when I see Foodie's history and a sudden quiet period and then these behaviors, I speculate and I question, and so does everybody else, and some of it is closer than some other stuff, but she's angry about all of it, so there we go. And the anger is useful, the anger is profitable, and she's certainly not got her own content to be able to bring to the table. Like, she can bring a few mukbangs, but if you look at the views on that, it's not going far. She wanted to make a quick buck. She wanted to stir up a little bit of sand in the water to blur the way. And she didn't want to address the things that we were talking about before, so she created some, or recreated, some new topics. And that's where we are with her. So, yeah, I'd be a little bit interested. I want to know if she told on herself or if she just doesn't know how time works. But I wonder, realistically speaking, she's not actually going to go to Canada. She's going to see all the things that are required for her to do, and then she's going to get exhausted and overwhelmed and probably not do them. But I'd be interested to see where this path leads. All right, I don't have very much more for you. I think we'll see drama over the next couple of days because she's working really hard to stir up those particular pots, because she's only got another, 2 days of potential profit to make before it ticks over to the next month. Because once YouTube finalizes it, anything she makes after that will go into June, and then she won't get paid until July. So really she wants it now and tomorrow, because that gives it a couple of days to process before it gets moved on. I expect we'll see it in the community tab. I expect we'll see her raging online a little bit, genuinely or not. I think she's got enough annoyance in her over the entire reactor sphere that she could go off if needed on demand. So it would not surprise me if that is what we see. Oh, one more thing I was going to add, sorry about that. This should have been in the potential border hopping over to a nearby country just for the sake of the tourist visa. Something interesting happened to me. I was in Dubai the other weekend, and when I landed in Oman, an announcement came over the plane saying, if you are on this ticket code, please disembark. If you are not on this ticket code, please remain in place. Because one thing the UAE seems to do, they sold tickets where they had no intention of going into the country because they were just coming back to reopen their tourist 30-day allowance or whatever it was. So they weren't even disembarking into their country of destination, they were just turning around and flying back. So when I say it's possible for her to do that, she would literally only have to get on the plane once and then they'd bring her back and be done. Because if they're doing it in one place, they probably do it in others, you know? So I'm not saying she did it, but I'm saying it's a plausible thought. Okay, I'm really done this time. I'm going to put this up, I'm going to get it edited, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.